Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Edge of Adventure podcast. My name is Adam Asher. Great to have you with us. Great to have you joining us once again. And today we've got another great interview. I'm going to meet Jessinia Ruff today. She's joining us from One Day's Wages. Very interesting organization that does work all around the world. Jessinia, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's great to be here today.
Well, listen, I have an advantage over the listening audience. Now, they're going to get to know you, but I've had the chance already to do some research, get to know you and the organization. I'm already very, very impressed with all that you do and how you do it and why you do it. So let's tell the audience for, the overview picture here of one day's wages. You guys work where and what do you do?
Yeah, so we work all over the world. The idea is to alleviate extreme global poverty. That's the mission behind what we do. And then the idea behind the name is we ask our donors to give one day's worth of their wages to achieve that goal. And so that can look like a lot of different things. We work in 12 different areas of issue that contribute to extreme global poverty. So things like clean water, access to sanitation, global poverty, global hunger, and so many different other areas like girls empowerment. All of these things that a lot of different areas of focus that bring us together around this idea of alleviating extreme global poverty.
So I think there's a couple of things, Jacinia, that makes one day's wages very unique. And I'm sure there's a lot of things actually. But one of the things I noticed is that you do not attempt to reinvent the wheel. You
Mhm.
like to work with organizations on the ground in these places that are already doing great things and support them. So tell me, how do you support them and how do you determine which organizations in the various countries to work with?
Yeah, so we're a granting organization. So we help smaller organizations that maybe you haven't heard of before raise funds so that they can do the work on the ground that they're already really great at doing. So we're not trying to be the ones who come into a community and say how we think things should be fixed. We go and find people who are already fixing things, empowering people, so and coming alongside them and creating a partnership so that they can continue the work that they're already doing there. So one way we evaluate people is just the country that they're working in. If it's in a third or fourth tier of the Human Development Index, which is a way that is a country is evaluated and their poverty. And so working in those countries is where the need is the most needed, I guess. And so we go ahead and see what organizations exist in those countries. Sometimes they come to us, sometimes we go to them.
And at present, like if we were to stop the tape right now, count up all the countries that you're working in, it's approximately how many?
I believe last time I counted, it was about 48 countries that we've worked in over the 11 years of our organization.
And as you come alongside these organizations, the criteria that you might look for and say, "Yep, this is one that we can get behind and support." Generally speaking, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so smaller organizations, so they might have, we're looking at annual operating budget, maybe they're under $1 million. So they are a small team, that they're invested in the community and really take community feedback before they start a project, that they are thinking beyond just tomorrow, but in the future. What will their impact be in a few years, 10 years? So the sustainability behind that as well.
So you're looking for large, not large, you're looking for small organizations, organizations that are on the ground. And do you find that they generally understand the problems and the needed solutions better than maybe somebody who comes in from the outside?
Yeah, I truly believe so. a lot of their staff might be local people who grew up there and know the community and can really understand what the issue is and how to solve it rather than someone coming in and learning. They already know and they've been through it themselves.
So the other thing, I mentioned there were 2 things, right? The one is that you don't wanna reinvent the wheel, so you're working with these great organizations on the ground, getting behind them, supporting them, because they're already doing such great work, and you all come beside alongside them and help them. The other thing, right, that stuck out to me as I got to know your organization, and one of the reasons why I wanted to share it here on the edge of adventure, is that you drive home this concept that you, me, we, those of us who are watching this, we can make a very substantial difference by giving up or giving to the organization 1 day's wages. So tell me about that. That makes, I think you guys have kind of a unique concept there, and it makes a very important point.
Yeah, yeah, of course, Adam. That's what drew me to the organization in the beginning too, is that everyday people can make a difference. We don't need to, um, have these big corporations or billionaires going and giving their money when we can just make an impact by where we give our dollar. And so, by giving 1 day's of your wages, you're connecting yourself in a way to people who are living in extreme global poverty who may live on $1.90 or less a day. And by taking that sacrifice of giving 1 day of your wages, you're connecting to all these other people around the world.
This is The Edge of Adventure, and my guest today is Jessinia Ruff. She is the development director at 1 Day's Wages. And again, I'm going to pull up the website here on the screen. If you're listening via the audio podcast or on the radio, then you will just need to look them up at onedayswages.org, onedayswages.org to find out more. There's a lot more to find out. That website goes into great detail, all the many, many different organizations and types of things. So I think that's one of the things I thought was kind of interesting and intriguing, Jasenia. If I go to your website, we'll pull it up here in a minute, but as we go to your website and we look at it, you all are coming alongside so many different types of organizations, and just the look at all the different types of projects. It's kind of a lot to take in. As I look at it, I think, my goodness, there are a lot of things that you guys are involved in. What would be some of the most common, the types of needs that you find yourself addressing in different locations around the world as you work to combat global poverty?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think we just hit 220 projects total. Some of those are repeat organizations that we love to partner with for multiple years. So, but it's a lot of different organizations that we get to discover and partner with and invest in. And I think the areas of focus is something that really grounds us in the multitude of things that we do is we establish them around the UN sustainable development goals. So we have 12 different areas of issue that are based on those goals. So some things like um, climate impact is our newest area of focus. We also have girls empowerment. We have global hunger. There's jobs and skills, which is super important to give people the ability to make their own money. There's also things like maternal and child health and the care that goes into that. So, all of these issues, I think, ground us in the ability to 1 day end extreme global poverty.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question now, and it might not be fair. Okay. Might not be a fair question because all of these areas of focus, all 12 that the organization focuses on, they're all important. They are all important. Is there one or two that maybe I could say, or you would say, has your heart in a very special way?
Mm. Yeah, one I didn't mention in that list I just said was children's education. I think that is something that can change the trajectory of people's lives. So even starting at early childhood education. It's something here in the United States, preschool, we're used to, we probably went to as a child. Um, and a lot of other countries might not have preschool as an option, early childhood learning. And so there's a few great organizations out there that are focusing on those needs. And that's something that really has my heart because I think that by educating young, there are so many more opportunities that open up. So that's just one that I would say is great.
You mentioned sustainable development goals or this objective that the organizations you work with have the ability to sustain the development that they are focusing on. Um, I think you even mentioned the sort of the UN guidelines. Help us understand that. If we're not familiar with that, what does it mean to have a goal or an initiative that has sustainable development?
Yeah, so it's not just a quick fix, I think is the idea behind sustainable, maybe even the definition of it. That really we're looking long term towards the future of if, for example, if a child is educated in a sort of a kindergarten setting, what will that look like for not just that child, but the whole society, their future family, their community? And the sustainability of that one education for the rest of their life. And so it's called the spillover effect a lot of times in development, where if you change one person or one thing, then it will spill over into the community and impact many more people.
You have been working with the organization, One Day's Wages now for approximately how long?
Just about a year I've been on staff. Before that, I was a volunteer. And I think that was since about 2016 that I've been with the organization.
Crazy question now, Jasenia.
Mhm.
What drew you to the organization, or how'd you get involved? Tell us that story.
Sure. Yeah, I got involved during college. I studied global development and I was looking for an internship and just heard about One Day's Wages through my school. And I was really drawn to the fact that they don't try to reinvent the wheel like we talked about earlier. And so I was on the grant analyst team. So I helped to look at those organizations, find them, and then vet them. We have a great vetting process that enables us to really dig into whether an organization is sustainable, whether they're locally led, and all of that.
So let's talk a minute. I mean, money, right? It makes these things go round. We understand that. And we're talking about giving to your organization 1 day's wages, right? Starting there, I'm sure for those of us who can, a great idea would be to give more than 1 day's wage. But to start there and just to have that concept of what a difference, even just taking 1 day's wage and allowing you guys to take that money and invest it in these projects around the world. So let's
Mhm.
talk about money. If somebody does that and they give that money to 1 day's wages, how much of that money is applied to one of these projects?
Yeah, so the amazing thing about One Day's Wages is 100% of your donation goes directly towards these projects, minus the credit card fees, which is usually a few dollars. So we fundraise for our operations costs, our administrative costs, so completely separately. So we have one event per year, our annual gala, that we raise the majority of our expenses, and then we also have some key partnerships with other organizations and churches, businesses, and individuals that also help fund our administrative costs so that your money is going directly to help these individuals.
Jessinia Ruff is my guest today. She's the development director from 1 Day's Wages. You can look them up online at onedayswages.org, or you look for 1 Day's Wages on social media, across social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. So I like to ask very practical questions, and then I like to ask some more philosophical type questions. So here comes one of those, Jessinia. Who matters?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, every person matters. That's part of one of our ideas behind our mission is that the dignity that every person has is important. That each person can not only make an impact, but also deserves to receive that impact. So, you know, there's no hierarchy of need that I can see. We might focus on just one area of the world, but there are so many people who are deserving and of dignity and empowerment.
That word empowerment comes up from time to time. And I think for many of us in the West, I don't know, do we always know what that means or do we know how important it is or how needed it is in some other circumstances in some other places around the world? I mean, I know depending on where you are, that might be a word that gets used, but I think for some of us, it might be a little bit nebulous. When you say empowerment, and in particular, I wrote this down a few minutes ago, one of the projects that means a lot to you is um, girls' empowerment. And in some of these nations, kind of help us understand what that means to help these young ladies become and feel empowered.
Mm. Yeah, I think a lot of that comes back to privilege. So, in the United States, we have a lot of privilege because of just starting with something, whether that might be an income or a family support or even just governmental support. And so there are other places that maybe that privilege might be in a lower step than my own or than your own, or to the listener. And so empowering people is really giving them the tools that they need to be able to grow, that there's lifting that starting point a little bit higher so that they're able to exceed in whatever expectations they might have started their life with. So for girls' empowerment, that might be education. It could also be something simply like food or water access. Any of those things will help them become a woman who can do anything that they want.
Jessinia Ruff is my guest today, telling us about One Day's Wages, the organization, an organization working around the world, coming alongside great grassroots, local organizations around the world that are doing great things and helping them and encouraging them and supporting them, thanks to great donors like the ones that are watching here today. And one of the great things about this program, The Edge of Adventure, and I've heard a lot of this has come back to me in the last couple of weeks, and it means a lot to me when I hear that listeners, members of the audience, through they hear about these organizations, they look them up, they get involved, and they begin to give, and it means a lot. I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons why I do this is I think it's such a great privilege that we have to be able to give and support organizations like you guys that are doing great things. And I would like then to hear some, maybe, if I don't want to put you on the spot here, but if you can remember a story or an instance where a donor, right, somebody who gave and supported you guys as you support others, can you think of a time when that was particularly meaningful for the donor that you can recall?
Hmm. Yeah, I think our donors are so creative. Um, One story that comes to mind is the Bartz brothers in Minnesota. I'm also from Minnesota, and if you know anything about it, there's a lot of snow. And so they create snow sculptures that tower well over your head in their front yard each year. And they give donations from that, from people who come and visit these sculptures, to our organization towards clean water and as a way to tie, the snow to clean water in other parts of the world. So that's one donor that inspires creativity in their fundraiser that they did.
And since one day's wages comes alongside so many great organizations around the world helping them and helping to make a difference, let's flip that around. Can you think of a story where um, you know that a tremendous difference was made? And I'm sure that happens a lot, but something that might stick out in your memory and say, "Ah, you know what, this person or this community was greatly impacted by what was accomplished."
Yeah, there are so many stories about all of this. Um, One story that comes to mind is a story of Daniel, who was a kid supporting his siblings because his parents had died, and that he desperately needed a job. And the organization we partnered with was able to provide him some training. And so he was able to sell fruits and vegetables at a local market and then further expand that business so that he could support his own siblings. So I think that's just one way that we see the impact of one that one day's wages can make.
This organization, One Day's Wages, got its start when and why?
Yeah, it was about 11 years ago. Our founder, Eugene Cho, had been thinking about a different way to give. And so him and his family decided to give 1 year's worth of their wages. They saved up over a few years. And then in 2009, gave, I believe it was just over $60,000 to start this organization, and then invited his community, their family's community, to come alongside them and just give 1 day's worth of their wages. So that's how it all started, was with this idea that, like we said before, you don't need to be a rock star or a billionaire to change the world. It can start with just you.
Jessinia Ruff is our guest today. She's the development director joining us from One Day's Wages. Look them up online at onedayswages.org. And if you are watching the video version of the podcast, you're getting to see the different pictures here from their Facebook page. You can look them up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much anywhere. You'll find them at One Day's Wages. One Day's Wages. And I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll connect with them and let them know you heard about the organization here on the Edge of Adventure and that you appreciate what they do and how they do it. I think it's pretty innovative, Jasenia, to just to think about an innovative way to give. And when you think about one day's wage for most of us in the West, it's not necessarily something that we'll miss, you
Mm.
know. And you're telling me that that amount can make a tremendous difference elsewhere. Um, I mean, it's and very sort of a staggering concept, I think, when you think about it that way. So I think it's wonderful that you guys bring that to our attention. And the greatest challenge that you face, that the organization faces, would be what? What are the challenges? Money might be one of them. Always it takes, like I said, always takes money to make these things go round. Are there other challenges or other ways that the organization might need help in today's world?
Mm. Yeah, I think, we all have been impacted by COVID-19 in some way, and we've really seen that. We've also seen our donors step up and give. We opened up a emergency relief fund now just about a year ago to focus on COVID-19 relief. But that does affect our organization, and so I would just ask for listeners to even just share about what we do. Maybe you see something on this social media if you're watching on the video that you want to share with your family and friends, and even just that, getting the word out about these issues that contribute to extreme global poverty can be a huge help.
So you're telling me that one person can make a difference.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of an encouraging thought because I think so many of us, we go through our lives and we think, what can I do? What can I do? I'm just one person and I'm here and I got my job and I got my family and I've all these responsibilities and I gotta take care of all those things. Yeah, but thanks to organizations like One Day's Wages, we can, in a matter of minutes or seconds, even make a difference around the world. What would be your challenge then to those of us out here listening, watching, and going through our day to day lives? What's your challenge to us to help step up and make a difference?
Yeah. If you're able to give, that's a great way to make a difference. We've mentioned giving 1 day's worth of your wages, but every dollar counts. So even if it's just $2 a month, that adds up and can make a huge difference for us. But I understand, like I said, COVID has affected all of us. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't have any extra money to give right now, then fundraising is a great option as well. Like I mentioned, the Bartz brothers just built a snow sculpture. Maybe there's some other talent that you have that you can share with your community and raise money around that. And not only that, but raise awareness as well.
Jessinia Ruff is our guest today here on the Edge of Adventure. She's development director at One Day's Wages. Look them up online at onedayswages.org. Jessinia, thank you so much for your time and thanks for telling us about your organization. I guess I can't really let you go yet until I ask a couple of closing questions.
Mhm.
What inspires you about working with this organization?
Hmm. So, as the development director, I work with the donors at the majority of the time. So, what inspires me is the willingness of people to make a difference, that they understand that they can make an impact just being themselves and giving if they're able to. So, that would be a huge thing is the creativity, the motivation behind all of these donors. And I have worked on the other side of things with the grants. And I would say one thing with that is the inspiration that comes from the stories that we hear back from about the impact that our donors that are making around the world.
Well, thank you, Jasenia, for your time today. Anything else that the audience needs to know before we let them get back to their day?
I think, yeah, just driving home that fact that you can make a difference, even if it's just $1. It really does impact the rest of the world and can change the trajectory of the future.
Well said. Jasenia Ruff is my guest and has been my guest today. Development director from One Day's Wages. Look them up online at onedayswages.org. You'll find them on social media Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those things. You'll find them simply by doing a search for One Day's Wages. And I think you'll be blessed. I think you'll be encouraged by what they do. And hopefully, you'll also be inspired to
Mhm.
support them in some way because even as the point that Jasenia has driven home so many times, if even if you're able to give $2, $10, whatever it is, whatever you can afford to give, do it. And I think you'll be blessed, and it will help them help others as they work with these organizations around the world, combating some very, very difficult circumstances. Thank you, Jasenia, for your time today.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's great to talk with you.
Great to have you on the show. And as always, everybody, thanks for joining me right here on the Edge of Adventure. Look us up at theedgeofadventure.com, also across social media. And like Jacinia said, if you believe in something like whether it's the Edge of Adventure or One Day's Wages, if you believe in it and you think this is pretty cool, it does help just to share it out so that we can help reach more people and share these kinds of encouraging stories because the world needs those. We need these inspiring stories. Thanks again, Jacinia. God bless. We will talk to you again soon.
Sounds great. Have a great day.